I've been watching a bunch of Ludi matches lately from newer teams, and first of all, that's a lot of fun. Go watch your friends' matches and cheer for them in their stream chats. It's great. Back on topic though, now that people are finally playing actual Ludi sets, I'm seeing people start to deal with the anxiety that comes from a pressure situation. Sets there have been a lot of build-up for. Everyone experiences these kinds of nerves at some point in competition, but I haven't done a lot of talking about it before. I'm not going to be using a lot of the more rigorous scientific study that I'm sure has gone into this. A lot of this is more from my own feel. But I do think I've picked up a thing or two about it in my time competing, so I hope it'll at least be a helpful start for people. Our brains, for as magical and supernatural as they can be sometimes, can also be really, really stupid at others. If your wife is going to leave you if you don't win a game of chess, your brain is a lot more likely to think about losing your wife than thinking about the game of chess that you need to be playing well to keep her. Just saying, yes, I'm being silly, but if she'd leave you over a game of chess, you can do better. Anyway, the problem is that when people are physically threatened, we have a pretty good biological response to that figured out for most cases. Get the heart pumping faster, because we're going to have to move fast. Get the blood out of the extremities and get it to the major muscle groups so you can run or fight better. Narrow the mind's focus to just the two ideas of run or fight, so you take action more quickly and decisively than you would if you were weighed down by centuries worth of philosophical and ethical inquiry running through your mind. The threat isn't going to freeze for 30 minutes like a video game cutscene for you to make the dialogue choice. You just need to not hesitate. When something happens that makes us nervous, though, our body doesn't really know the difference between being attacked by a wild animal and playing a game in a tournament on our Nintendo Switch. It just locks us into the same pattern, if to a lesser degree. And the response that works well for stopping us from getting chomped on by whatever just roared at us really doesn't work as well in the other situation. Remember that part about how blood gets moved from our extremities, the parts of our bodies that aren't major muscle groups? The parts of you that go numb first when it's really cold? That includes your fingers. You know, the things that are pressing the buttons on your controller. Not super helpful, when those are exactly what need all the help they can get. I've had moments in tournament, especially during colder seasons when it wasn't warm enough in the room, where I've stood up from my chair and done big, fast, whole arm circles just to get the blood back into my fingertips again. I don't know if it was the warmth that created, or the centrifugal force, or the placebo effect, but it seemed to help me. Those parts of our brain getting shut down are also really rough, given that the task we're nervous about happens to require quick, precise decision-making. That's human brain stuff, not lizard brain stuff. But our brains are wired to go into lizard mode under stress. We can't control whether this response happens altogether, but there are some practices we can follow to keep it under control, and in some cases even harness it a little to our advantage. Firstly, the most important thing you can do in a situation like this is actually something that you do well before it even happens. Prepare. If you have time to make all the decisions you'll need to make before it's time to execute, take the time and make all of those decisions now. Now, this isn't a game like chess where you can actually flowchart a significant amount of the game, but your team should have a plan for defense, neutral, and offense, so you end up fighting in the same place and you know whose job it is to do what. You can't over-prepare to the extent that something going wrong will ruin your plan and no one will know what to do, because something will go wrong. But if the plan is that it's your job to ride the tower and you get splatted, so you can't, because there was a plan, even though that step of the plan turned out to be impossible, you now know, because that was in the plan and it can't happen, that you're going to need to inform a teammate to grab the tower instead of doing what they were going to do. Your plan was still helpful, despite the fact that you couldn't follow it. When you have a plan, you have something that you can focus your mind on. All sorts of things that wouldn't distract you in normal matches of Splatoon will distract you in the matches that matter. One of the most powerful ways to help your team's mental game going into a match is to verbally discuss the plan for the game as you're loading into it. Nobody has time to think about how many people are watching. Nobody has time to think about wins or losses or KD ratios. Nobody has time to think about how their wives will leave them if they don't win. They only have time to think about the thing that will actually help them win the game. You'll never be able to focus if you don't have something to focus on. If you don't have something to focus on, You won't have anything to substitute for the unhelpful thoughts that make you nervous. If you prepare appropriately, that by itself can be a source of confidence that you do have a plan, that you have been working on these map modes, that you've been playing with these players, and because of that, you've already done a lot of the work it will take to win you this game. Trust in your training. No bad day is ever going to undo hours and hours of focused practice. If you've trained better than the other team, you will win. Telling yourself to just trust the plan, stick to the plan, trust your training, will both give you as much confidence as that training should inspire, and also, as we just got done talking about, focus your mind on the things that will actually win you the game. The plan. Over the course of a tournament run, that focus is critical. Top players in Melee tournaments will often flee the crowds and try to find ways to be alone, to meditate, to keep their brains focused purely on Melee, focus entirely on the next match they're going to have to play. It helps to maintain a little bit of a sense of urgency on comms, not so much that you scare your teammates and make them more nervous, and you also have to watch your tone so you keep morale up and your teammates are encouraged to keep trying. But enough urgency to keep everyone's attention on what their attention needs to be on during the game. As I've said before, you want to focus on the game, the in-game decisions and execution, the weapon comps, your in-game responses to them, adapting to changes in the game state, not on the results of any game. Wins, losses, KD ratios, clips, the crowd seeing you fall in the water, that cute guy in the front row cheering for you when you hit that shot, those things being in your head, they're not going to help you win more games. This is what it means to keep your head in the game. This becomes especially difficult, as I've alluded to, at in-person events for a number of reasons. When we play at home, we're very used to the environment we're playing in. It's probably relatively private and undisturbed, and we get to choose the setup we're playing at, so it's exactly the way we want it. At a LAN, the setups are going to be pretty nice, but they're going to be just a bit different than we're used to. We'll need to adjust to table heights, screen sizes, different chairs. There are distractions, like the TOs trying to hustle you to the setup to play the match so the tournament runs on time, and the audio equipment not working and needing to call a tech over to help with it, and the noise of the crowd, being able to vaguely hear game sounds from the main stage setup or from other matches, the fact that you only just learned what your teammates physically look like yesterday, and now, even though the voices are the same, your mind's eye is still adjusting to what they really look like instead of how you pictured them before, and they seem a little more alien than they were. If any of these things creep into even our subconscious minds, they're taking up real estate that we could be using to make an in-game decision instead. Keep going back to your plan mentally, and maybe add a physical component, like maintaining some stabilizing tension in your core. Not so much that you're locking yourself in place and messing your aim up, or that you're tiring yourself out, but enough to remind you that you have a task to attend to, and that task is what you need your body to be working toward right now. Between games, you can definitely release that tension and get some relief from it. Maybe do something to get the circulation moving through your fingers again if that's been a problem. But also make sure to keep that focus until the set is over. If you win a game, congratulating your teammates on good plays helps a lot, but you can't release that tension and that focus completely, or you may lose it for the next game. At some point after you relieve the tension, make sure to get it back by once again discussing the plan for the next map mode with the same urgency and seriousness as you did for the game you just won. If you lost a game, one of the best anti-tilt strategies is just to get everyone focused on the next game. There may be some adaptations you can make from one game to the next, but you will not develop a better fundamental understanding of the video game in the 90 seconds between two games of Splatoon. These adaptations should be discussed as part of the plan for the next game. Don't get distracted by arguing about what should have happened if that's not going to help you in the next game. Nothing matters except the next game you have to play and the plan you're going to have going into it. Again, this is a step where having a plan really helps, because now we can either reiterate the plan or make adjustments to it, now that, for example, we've seen which weapons the opposing team will actually be playing. That conversation is about the game, not the wins or losses, not the process, not the results, not how we feel about those results. Wins and losses, results, the reactions of the crowd, your reputation in the community, the way you feel about your own play or your teammates' play, those thoughts have scary emotional weight and also don't help you win the game of Splatoon. If you maintain your focus on your plan, keep your physical body limber and comfortable enough to play, and treat this game of Splatoon just like any other game of Splatoon, you will play at the level that you practice at, and that's all you can ever expect of yourself.